Good afternoon and welcome. We take a brief moment to light our chalice as we gather once again in community in the act of reflecting on the future of our movement and its leadership. I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer, spirit of love, spirit of life, Holy God experienced by us in so many different ways. Let us bring the best of ourselves to this task of imagining and visioning what the future of our movement may be. It is holy work, and we are grateful to engage in it. Amen. Good afternoon, and welcome to our first General Assembly Forum, featuring the candidates who are running to be the next president of the Unitarian Universalist Association. I'm the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, and I serve as chair of the UUA Election Campaign Practices Committee, alongside committee members Beth McGregor and Casey Slack. We are a board-appointed committee that is charged with supporting our UUA election processes. A year from now, we will be holding presidential elections at the New Orleans General Assembly, and we encourage all who are here and watching at home to take the time between now and then to educate yourselves and your congregations on the different visions that our candidates offer, as well as the practicalities of how voting takes place. Our bylaws allow for both in-person and absentee voting, and we encourage you to learn how your congregation can fully participate in next year's presidential elections, both through in-person delegates at New Orleans and through absentee voting. Our candidates, the Reverends Jean Pupke, Susan Frederick Gray, and Allison Miller, have jointly decided the rules for today's forum, which included the opportunity for GA participants to submit questions in advance to the Election Campaign Practices Committee, which was charged by the candidates to seek a representative array of questions that all three candidates would answer. Our candidates will begin with opening statements of 3 minutes each, followed by the opportunity to speak for up to 2 minutes on each question. At the end, they'll each have 2 minutes to offer some concluding remarks. Allison, Jean, and Susan have elected to use the visual timers and bell that are used in our general sessions for timekeeping. As has been the practice in prior presidential campaigns, our candidates have developed a shared covenant that will guide and inform how they run their election campaigns. As we begin our time with them today, I'd like to share with you these words of covenant that they have jointly crafted. We, the candidates, will work together to create campaigns and conversations that foster the health and well-being of our faith and our association. We affirm the need for issues-based debate and creative, healthy competition during this campaign. We affirm our collegial relationship, which is based in the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association covenant, to which we are accountable. We affirm an anti-oppressive feminist ethic in the campaign, which is respectful, trusting, and honors interdependence among the candidates and our supporters. We are committed to each other's ongoing significant leadership in the UUA. Holding these words as your shared commitment to the presidential election process, we now begin with your opening statements. Jean.
Thank you all for taking time to be with us here today. I know you rushed lunch to get here. My road to this podium has been long. I was raised as a Catholic and became a Catholic nun, hanging out in the fringes of the liberal end of that church. But when things became too conservative, I went out and left and went 15 years without a church home, until the day I walked into First Unitarian in Portland, Oregon. And with that, my life, my whole purpose shifted to Unitarian Universalism. I've witnessed in our faith too many broken promises, and I'm concerned about the future of the faith. And so I ask questions such as, regionalization is supposed to improve services. Has it? Our future ministers were promised that the regional subcommittees going away would not affect them. Did it? In many places, they've dismantled chalice lighters because districts have gone away. Has it been replaced? And we take social action at General Assembly and other meetings. Do we really follow through? Do we follow through on commitments that are long-term? And what about the fact that our RE registrations have gone down 24% in 10 years? Does it alarm us? What about the $1 million shortfall financially in our faith? For these reasons, I could no longer stand on the sideline of our faith and this election. As a former chief operating officer and CEO in the private sector, I've been part of teams that turn around organizations. We increased one company from $12 million of revenue a year to $50 million in just 7 years. But we did it through improving quality, innovative thinking, staff empowerment, and collective leadership. So as a minister, I serve a congregation that's grown from 410 members to well over 600. Our congregation is radically inclusive. We have a commitment to social justice. Our mission includes a commitment to be a resource congregation to other congregations in our faith. So we're willing to be there when needed. I know the president of our association can work well with our board. I know this because I've been a trustee at large and a finance chair of that very board. And that's why I feel called to run for the presidency of the UUA. I have skills that are collaborative, effective business leader skills. I have experience as a board member and a track record of being an anti-racist, youth-empowering minister.
Susan.
Friends, this is a defining moment. We are in a time of great change for our country and our planet. Uncertainty about the future is real, and there is a real question about the relevancy of liberal religion in this moment. And yet I believe that this is also a time of opportunity. More than ever, Unitarian Universalism is called to be a bold and vital voice for love and for justice. But to answer this call, there are 3 things we need to do. Number 1, we need spiritually vital communities. Number 2, we need to be grounded in partnership. And number 3, we need to be organized for impact. Let me talk about each of these. Spiritually vital communities. So in Phoenix, Arizona, our congregation is known for our national leadership on immigration rights. But that outward justice work is just a manifestation of the internal health and vitality that we have built. More than 10 years ago, our number 1 priority was to build beloved community, to move beyond individualism and silos of power in order to organize around a common mission, right relationship, and covenant. Through that, we were able to act powerfully and collectively for justice when it mattered. Grounded in partnership. As UUA president, I am committed to strengthening the relationships across our association and the relationships with our congregations and the UUA. But I'm also committed to partnering beyond Unitarian Universalism because the challenges that we face in this moment, from racial justice to global climate change, call for broad coalitions of people working together. 2 national key relationships that I bring to the presidency on day 1 are my relationship with Black Lives Matter co-founder Opal Tometi, who I've organized with in Phoenix, and with the President and General Minister of the United Church of Christ, John Dorhauer, a guest at our multi-faith GA this week. Finally, we need to be organized for impact. The key question we must ask is, will we be in the business of preserving our institution, or will we be in the business of living our mission in bold and vital ways? Now, this is not an either-or question, it's a both-and, but mission has to come first. We demonstrated that at Justice GA. We had a clear and compelling vision for what we wanted to accomplish. We had to let go of business as usual in order to have an impact, and I want to see us have an impact more forcefully for love and justice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison.
Together, we can grow in spirit, create powerful change, and lead with love. I am Allison Miller, and I am running for UUA president out of a deep sense of gratitude as a lifelong Unitarian Universalist for all the gifts that I have received from Unitarian Universalists across the country and in my congregations. I also run for president with a deep sense of the possibilities that our faith has to offer healing in our lives and when we take collective action in the world beyond. It is time to return to the conversation that Bill Sinkford began about a language of reverence. It is time to imagine traditions, new traditions, that move us past only being rooted in Protestantism. There are too many people longing for what we have to offer. I can think of one couple in my congregation, someone who identifies as a Guatemalan Catholic, now strong UU, and her husband from Indonesia, who is Muslim. Our congregation was the only place where these two could get married. And in fact, I worked with the imam to officiate at their wedding because it couldn't happen in his sanctuary. There are too many people who find themselves just outside of our walls, longing to meaningfully participate and help shape our religion into a future that is more inclusive. When I think about another priority, we must invest in the rising generations, not just the millennials, who in fact, many are already having children, and we must adapt our lifespan religious education programs to meet the needs of families who don't want the same things that families wanted 20 years ago. It's been too long since we've updated how it is that we minister to the whole. It is time for us to invite new leaders to participate and shape our congregations. I imagine a congregation that we don't so easily graduate out of or drift away from when people of color come to our doors and experience a chasm between what we offer and what we advertise. And together, renewed as the beloved community, we can go out and lead with love in our communities, partnering for love and justice. It's not just the Unitarian Universalists that are grateful we're there, but people who reside in our community who want us to remain.
Thank you. You'll each now have 2 minutes apiece to answer the questions that have been selected. Our first question is related to institutional leadership and the role of the president. What do you see as the most significant duties of the president of the association, and how do you plan on pursuing those duties? We'll start with Susan.
The president of our association is our spiritual, our prophetic, and our executive leader. Let me talk about each of those. So, executive leadership. This is about articulating a clear and compelling mission for our faith and working with the association and board to articulate that mission and clarifying it and saying it briefly, clearly, over and over again so that all of our staff, all of our resources are clearly directed at achieving that mission. It's also about funding the mission and being able to speak to it in an inspiring way that unlocks our hearts and our generosity to make that mission realized in the world. In the congregations I've served, I've led dramatic revitalization. From Ohio to Phoenix, we've grown by over 36% and increased pledge giving by 50%. These are the fundraising and mission-centered skills I'll bring to the role of president. Number 2, prophetic leadership. The president of our association is the voice for our faith in moments of crisis and heartbreak and in critical justice moments. I have been that voice on immigrant rights for our association. Not the only voice, but I've been a key voice on that and have shown the capacity to speak the truth of our faith in moments of crisis and on justice issues. And then finally, our president is the spiritual leader of our religious movement. The pastor to our pastors, the national leader to work with international religious and justice leaders across the globe, and to tend to our hearts and to speak to us of courage, resiliency, and compassion.
Thank you. Allison.
The president has 4 key roles. They are the spiritual leader, they are the prophet, along with others in our faith. They exercise the practical as the CEO, and they are the nonprofit chief fundraiser of the association. I think it's time, as both a prophet and a spiritual leader, for the president to leverage technology to update the ways that we communicate with the world and to more directly be a voice across the association in times of both sorrow and tragedy, and possibility and inspiration for change, for justice, for social justice and environmental justice. And the president can unlock other voices and share and witness to the diversity of leaders that are there in times of both possibility and suffering. The CEO's primary role is indeed to cast a vision, but also to implement the ends of the association, which requires a lot of vision and strategy. I hear a tension in our association between whether the board should be visionary or the president, and the answer is both. I am a leader in a multi-million-dollar nonprofit where our executive director is very creative in his implementation of anti-oppression. We can do the same. And finally, I have led our association in a capital campaign and fundraised and offered grants to congregations to be able to offer new ministries. We must raise funds to match our ideas.
Thank you. Jean.
Thank you. For some reason, I've been engaged with this question lately. The president of the UUA is a public voice. People recognize the president, the importance of what they have to say, but probably no one more than the Unitarian Universalist community itself. We speak out on prophetic matters, we speak in hope, sometimes we speak in dialogue. All of these things are our opportunity to be known in this world as standing on the side of love. We also have a presidency role, which is the executive leader, the CEO, in which a role to inspire our hardworking, dedicated staff to do great work. It's an opportunity to make their work sing, their lives gain meaning. Leadership like that comes from experience, knowledge, practice. The person who will lead us as president will also be the fundraiser-in-chief, meeting a financial crisis that we are seeing unfold before us every year more fully. And I have the skills to address those issues. But above all, they are the spiritual leader, the person who will rise to say we must push forward bending the arc of justice on the issues that confound us most certainly. How to create religious education for young children that is meaningful to families, and how we and all together can push through our difficulty achieving multiculturalism and the beloved community to a new day. I would like the chance to be that inspiring person.
Thank you. Our next question is related to vision. What do you see as the greatest opportunities and potential pitfalls for Unitarian Universalism during the next presidency? We'll begin with Allison.
We do need to embrace powerful change. It is clear that the religious landscape is shifting, but joining with a Protestant congregation like the UCC Church, unless it radically changes, would exclude so many in our midst. We must embrace religious pluralism, and we must also fund innovative ministries. Right now, the UUA offers classes for entrepreneurial ministries, but we need to fundraise to be able to plant new growth opportunities in congregations and beyond the walls of congregations. I serve as the president of the CLF, and we are constantly encountering stories about people whose lives are deeply impacted when we reach beyond the walls of our congregations, in prison ministries or when we have funded campus ministries. We need to be willing to experiment, and not only with justice ministries to risk boldness, but to risk boldness in how it is that we lead our congregational life together. It is indeed a pivotal moment, but if the UUA engages with congregations not only in times of crisis and transition, but rebuilds the relationships with UU covenanted communities and congregations, and has a trust-building, coaching relationship about how we challenge one another at all times, then I see a real possibility for growth. I have seen it over and over again. It is time to invest our funds and our priorities on what we say will make us relevant to the future: a multicultural, multiracial, multi-generational, religiously plural future.
Thank you. Jean.
We have some serious pitfalls. It's clear that financially, we will give when we are motivated to the vision. In 2 days, we have raised $190,000 in 2 events alone here at General Assembly. I do not doubt our generosity, but I know that we need a vision that will overcome the problems and pitfalls we have where we think we do not have enough, where we can't see the vision which is cloudy before us, when it's unclear how we will work together. The opportunities are just an outgrowth of those things. How will we, as leaders in this faith, come together to overcome racism as it is persistently presented in structures and systems of our faith, our communities, and the world? How will we heal the earth, which is plagued with our indifference and our lack of sense of environmental justice? These are challenges that we must rally together, and to overcome them, we need someone who can organize our association, to name these, to help discern together what we will respond to and how, to make structures of our staff and volunteer committees which can deliver the outcomes that are needed to change this world, and then to find the funding that connects donors and congregations with the funding that we need to achieve our dreams. We need vision. We need to pull together around that vision. We know we can, we must do so with a leader with experience, who's spiritually grounded and compassionate.
Thank you. Susan.
So in times of uncertainty and in times when financial resources are scarce, it is common for organizations and institutions to become really inward focused and absorbed in conflict and tension. The antidote to that is a sense of calling and clarity of mission. So again, the key question for us, if we are going to meet the opportunities and challenges of this time, is, are we in the business of preserving our institution, or are we on the business of living our mission in bold and courageous ways? Now, this is not an either-or question. It's both and, but mission must come first. When we put mission first, it allows us to ask, how would we structure a religious institution for this moment to achieve that mission? We need to preserve the strongest, healthiest aspects of our institution, but be willing to let go of what no longer serves us, for this moment is too critical. Currently, the mission of the Unitarian Universalist Association says the association is there to serve the needs of our congregations. I don't think that is enough. I think we need a mission that says the UUA is there to nurture health, vitality, and multiculturalism in our congregation. We need a mission that challenges us to be more than we are at this moment, that unlocks the fullness and the power of our faith for this moment. And we do need a strategic, spiritually grounded leader who is invested deeply in partnership across and beyond our association to help lead us in transforming and changing our institution for mission.
Thank you. Our next question was by far the question we were most asked to ask each of you, and it pertains to the issue of ministerial misconduct. The Berry Street essay this year touched a chord with many on the issues of abuse of ministerial power and authority and ministerial misconduct. What is needed for us to address this issue seriously? We'll begin with Jean.
For those of you who may not have attended the Berry Street lecture, we heard a long legacy and disappointing set of truths about how we have been indifferent historically to ministerial misconduct of many kinds, but primarily that which preyed upon disadvantaged and lesser powered people from ministers in congregations. This is part of a larger pattern in society, and it's an important question for that reason. And I believe that we cannot avoid one more time and walk away from this and pretend we didn't hear. We must step forward. I believe the board should step forward first by bringing to the Boundaries Committee a thoroughgoing analysis of where we are at present times. We imagined that such things were behind us, or that their effects were behind us, but we clearly understand now that there are ongoing ramifications, that in fact these abuses can continue and be adapted into other forms. And therefore, when I am president of the UUA, I would take the step forward to commission a group of people to make accessible to every person in the Unitarian Universalist Association the resources of advocacy and the clarity in each congregation that abuse is abuse, must be named, and must be attacked with vigorous and thoroughgoing examination and adjudication. We cannot allow some people in our movement to escape accountability, but others to suffer for their lack of it.
Thank you. Susan.
So the first thing I want to lift up is members of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville, Tennessee. If you are here because your leadership on this issue is helping to bring greater health and accountability to our association. And Gail Seavey, the minister of that congregation, gave a powerful Berry Street. And I did my internship in Nashville, Tennessee, and I stayed as their sabbatical minister. And I was with that community for 2 years as they have been continuing in this process to bring greater ownership and accountability from the UUA around clergy misconduct. So I just want that shout out. And I think that we need to model and develop in our association collaborative, transparent, and accountable power. There are so many examples of the misuse of power. And too many of our congregations, but also many of us as individuals, have experienced abuse of power. We see it in our larger systems. When we experience abuse of power, there is a tendency, when we see how power can be misused, there's a tendency to not want power, to sort of deny power. But you know, that doesn't increase our health. Power is important. Leadership is important. But that power needs to be accountable, it needs to be collaborative, it needs to be transparent. So my analysis of our association is that we diffuse power across the association so that no one's fully accountable and no one's fully responsible, and only those who know the system get to move it, because it's not clear and transparent. And if you're not in the know, it's harder for you to make an impact on the association. I want to change that. Clear, transparent, collaborative power and modeling healthy, anti-oppressive power that is accountable throughout our association.
Thank you. Allison.
I think we need to begin with the Unitarian Universalist Association itself. How is it that across our entire association there has been so many instances of abuse of power? We would be naive not to look at the systems of power of the Unitarian Universalist Association as a whole. And it's not just a matter of clergy abuse. How is it that some people have not been held accountable for such a lengthy period of time? And it ripples out throughout our congregations and throughout the association in ways that people who we trust experience a system that bends towards their weaknesses rather than demanding the changes that love demands. We need to create a task force to take a look at this at every single level of the association, and to take a look and give a hearing to people and create a safe space to come forward. Too often, by coming forward, victims wind up exposed, survivors is a better word, wind up exposed, while the perpetrator winds up protected. We need to pay close attention to the ways that the abuse of power ripples throughout not just our congregations, but all of our systems. And then we need to partner with congregations, as I said, in times of health, and not just assume that everything is okay. It is vital that we are coaches and partners guiding congregations all the time towards greater health. And this is just one issue.
Thank you. Our next question is related to finance. It has been noted that the percentage of fair share financial giving to the association has been declining. What is your vision for fundraising and for meeting the financial needs of the association? We'll begin with Susan.
Relationship and mission. That's what fundraising really is. It's relationships and being able to articulate a clear difference that our financial resources can make in the world. So my commitment as president of the association, if I am elected, is to prioritize the relationships between our congregations and the association so that you know how your gifts, how your APF, your annual gifts to the association make a difference in amplifying the values of our faith and nurturing the health of our congregations across the association. I make a commitment to get out into the congregations and to visit and to make sure that the staff is reaching out to congregations and not just in a one-way flow of information, but in a relationship of mutuality where the UUA is listening to the needs of the congregation and that we are partnering together to increase the effectiveness and the impact of our congregations in the world and the mission as the association. So it's about relationship and it's about being clear about how our giving makes an impact. And I want to work hard on rebuilding, strengthening those relationships with congregations and making the UUA more accountable for amplifying and sharing our faith in the world.
Thank you. Allison.
I think this is a critical question for our future. Many of our congregations are struggling with stewardship, as is the Unitarian Universalist Association. This is one of the #1 issues that has come up as I've listened to leaders in congregations across the association. An interesting thing is that during the recession, many nonprofits and congregations saw a drop-off, but then there was a return to levels of giving from before, but we did not see that. Number one, it's because we did not prioritize it. Number two, it's because we need people who have an understanding and experience about fundraising in the top levels of our association. We need to be in touch with our congregations to listen to them for what the opportunities and challenges they are facing, and to create programs and fund programs that will make a difference. And then we need to explain to our congregations why we have certain priorities beyond the congregations that we want to fund and share with them how it makes a difference. I'll give you one example. Sometimes I hear people don't want to invest in campus ministry because it doesn't grow that congregation. Well, if everybody reached out to young adults, they would land somewhere. We need to have a big-hearted, generous sense about our faith. Everything is not about growing my congregation. It's about growing spiritually deep Unitarian Universalists who transform the world. I don't think people have given up on our faith. I think sometimes leaders are afraid to share a bold vision, and so they don't see a reason. It is time for us to fund and then go back to the congregations and share how we've succeeded.
Thank you. Jean.
I've had the opportunity to teach at UU University the Commonwealth Stewardship Training. And just this morning, as I was seated with committed UUs who have included our faith in their legacy giving, their wills and estate planning, I remember so vividly at those moments why we can raise funds big enough to fund our dreams. People want dreams, but this financial statement of our association, it shows that bequests to our congregations and voluntary giving is down. The way forward isn't clear. The value is not to be found. As your finance chair on the UUA board, it was my job to meet with people who are deeply connected to the future of our faith, and often our conversation would turn to those who perhaps were not so convicted of what we were doing. The president has the opportunity to stand in the front of the room and show where we can go. The president can listen with donors who wish to connect their funds with their dreams of UU congregations thriving. Our congregations have not yet scratched the surface on learning how we can combine our funds to do the work of good in this world. And I have experience in raising funds. Just recently, my church just raised $5 million just to renovate. $3 million, excuse me, just to renovate. It felt bigger. I would like the chance to show that this is an area of my strength.
Thank you. Our next question is related to priorities. As UUA president, you would help determine what the associational staff's goals and priorities are. What 2 or 3 priorities would top your list? We'll begin with Allison.
We need to invest in multi-generational ministry, in multiculturalism and anti-oppression, and in innovative growth. Let me begin with the first. Yes, it is true that many of our religious education programs are in decline, but as I said, many of our programs have not been updated in years. It's been forever since there was a robust conversation about the future of our faith. OWL brings so many people across our doors, but we have nothing that has been updated since when OWL was created. It is time to take a new and fresh look for what families are looking for today, and my congregation is not only growing younger, it's growing older because we are committed to lifespan religious education, and I can't tell you how many retirees are longing for meaning-making and vibrant contributors to our congregations, so we're growing younger and older. We must invest in anti-racism and multiculturalism if we want to live up to the theology that we profess. There are too many people that find themselves on the margins and are not invited into real opportunities for leadership and change. We need to rebuild the pipelines of leadership with youth and young adults of color, and also with new people of color as they join our congregations and our covenanted communities, so that they can help work with us to create powerful change. And finally, if we do not plant new emerging communities or congregations, it's to plan for decline. It used to be one of our principles to plant new UU communities. We must take risks for our faith. It makes a difference in so many people's lives, and we must be willing to transform it for the future.
Thank you. Jean.
It feels like this is such an important question because it really implies what are we not going to do, doesn't it? We cannot do everything, we cannot be everywhere, but what we can do grandly. Let's begin with thinking about an assessment of all the promises we have made and not fulfilled, specifically promises related to our anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural commitments, which over years have not stood well. We have neglected and forgotten them. Is it time to examine whether we've come to pay the bill on the Black empowerment funds which were never completed, which in present value today would be about $5 million or more? Isn't it time to stand honorably with our commitment to JTW, to the journey toward wholeness? Isn't it time to create opportunities for our commitments to be enduring ones? We must gather in discernment and figure together on how we will build up regions that we have created, but not created the structures for lay leadership to connect with one another. Professional leadership does. Why don't we support lay leadership gatherings? And a great way to do that would be to pass a 10-year sunsetted change in our bylaws to make an every other year General Assembly with regions gathering in the off years. Our impact on the earth would be better. We would gather in closer community. People of color could find and connect with other people of color to sustain them in the difficulty of working with some of our systems.
Thank you. Susan.
So, all of us running for president will potentially have the shortest term presidency than we've had in many years, as there's now only one 6-year term. So whoever is elected needs to be ready to start on day one, because that is a short term. So I've been thinking about what is the most important impact that I could make as UUA president. And I believe that it is, number one, strengthening the relationships across the association. I have served and been a part of congregations in all 5 regions of our association. I know the realities and how they differ across the regions of our country. Those relationships are the foundation of health from which other things grow. Number 2, leading our association in crafting a clear and compelling mission, because that mission will help to guide our association for the decades and generation to come. Our mission statement hasn't changed in decades. If you don't know where you're going, how do you know where to invest? How do you know what to do? We need a mission that says we are nurturing the health and vitality and multicultural competency of our congregations, because that is long-term work, that we might have a greater impact all over the country. I have seen the way that mission creates generosity, clarity, and decision-making that leads to greater health. And I've seen that in downtown, urban, small congregations in Ohio, or mid-size and larger congregations out west. Finally, organized for impact. I will be committed. The third priority is helping all of us lead our association to live that mission, build an association that can achieve it.
Thank you. Our next question is related to social justice. Unitarian Universalists are passionately engaged in many critical justice issues, like climate change, the Black Lives Matter movement, immigration justice and reform, and gun control, for example. What justice issues are you most passionate about, and would you show up for? We'll begin with Jean.
This question is one a minister lives with all the time. The bigger your congregation, the more your members, the more interests there are, the more justice calls that people receive. Where do you spend your time? Well, in Richmond, in the former capital of the Confederacy, it has been easy for me to name what was the most important work, that of anti-racism. But we've also spent time on GLBTQ and other issues, women's rights in Virginia, in the rights of minority GLBTQ folks who are foisted into conversion therapy. Climate justice, though, is becoming the Trump issue, is it not? Because it happens in slow motion, we, like the frog in the pot, have been waiting to just find the place where we really think, oh, it must be getting bad now. UUs may be passionate about this, but we aren't nearly busy enough. We aren't organized well enough. We are not funded well enough. And yesterday, when Bob Murphy withdrew the action of immediate witness on climate change in favor of anti-racism, he was working collaboratively, as we all must, because all of these injustices are related. The illusion is that we don't work on one when we work on another. As a leader, I know in congregational life and at the UUA that we must work on what is before us faithfully and trust that the rest of our people are working on the other pieces before them, and name the things we can be strongest in serving.
Thank you. Susan.
First of all, context matters. And I want to be clear that whatever my deepest held commitments are, They may not be your deepest held justice issues, and they may not reflect the most critical issues in your own community. And it's important that all of our congregations and communities work on issues of justice that are near to their heart and that are real for where they are located. So location and context matters, and I just want to be clear on that. Now, my core priorities, where my heart is racial justice and climate change. Now, I've been working with some leaders who've been a part of the National Day Labor Organizing Network, who've left that organizing because they really want to work in the area of racial justice, where both immigrant detention and mass incarceration meet. I mean, these are both racial justice issues, and that is where my heart is most deep. And I want to say climate change is a crisis across our planet. But it's a crisis that's going to require all of us, of multiple races, nationalities, ethnicities, to work together, as well as economic classes to work together. One of the obstacles to real leadership on climate change here in the United States is that we have a pervasive mistrust for our government and a desire to bankrupt our government. And critical race theorists will tell you, and have told me, that stems from slavery and racism and the way white supremacy and those models don't trust the government, because the government has been the one to pass the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act and to fight for an end to slavery. I think we have to start with racial justice so we can work collaboratively and collectively on climate justice.
Thank you. Allison.
One of the first priorities I would have for social justice is to take a look at the structure that we have, so that no matter which cause we are engaged in the work of, we will be stronger in our impact. Right now, we have a very strong program of public witness, but the Unitarian Universalist Association is no longer helping to organize congregations for effective social justice. The UUSC is beginning to do that. We must be partners with our congregations around the issues they say that they need. I have a concern that that's outside of the UUSC's mission in part, and it may disappear as it did from the UUA. We must strengthen our voice in the public square. We have legislative advocacy ministries. We just started a legal advocacy project in New Jersey that are loosely organized, and we've lost our voice on the national level at the time that it seems most critical. The issues that I would support right now in this pivotal moment are racial justice, economic justice, and climate justice. Racial justice and economic justice are the reason that Trump has gained so much foreground during this election. People are struggling. We must speak to these issues, and we are called by our seventh principle to pay attention to healing our earth. It's part of our universalist vision. I would look at the UUA and making sure that we have a comprehensive national strategy for social justice that is not overly weighted in one area. We must work together.
As our time at General Assembly has unfolded, many have remarked that they have enjoyed meeting all three of you and could easily envision any of you being the next president. What do you believe differentiates you from the other candidates? We'll begin with Susan.
Number one, I've served in all 5 regions of the association in leadership, and I think that gives me the capacity to represent the broadness and the diversity and fullness of our faith. I've served small congregations, mid-sized congregations, and grew up in a large congregation, so that diversity of experience, I think, is key. Number 2, with the work that I did for Justice General Assembly, I was called to help cast a vision a clear vision, and help us realize it. In that role, I was hired by President Peter Morales. I worked for the UUA for a year. My congregation allowed me to do that for a year. I worked with the UUA board. I worked with the UUA staff. I traveled all around the country talking to communities of Unitarian Universalists about immigration justice. I sat on the GA Planning Committee for the year, which is great training for leadership in this association. I worked with the accountability group of leaders from our identity-based ministries. So I have the experience of working with the breadth of our association in a key justice role, in a key national role, and have demonstrated my ability to cast a vision and help us realize it. And then number 3 is really the national relationships I bring. And I didn't mention the national immigrant rights relationships that I bring to the table. But that relationship, organizing with Opal Tometi of Black Lives Matter, and John Dorhauer of the UCC are critical. Peter Morales told me one of the most difficult things about being president is building the national relationships, because it takes time to build trust and collaboration and connection with other national leaders. Coming into the office with those is a key thing that distinguishes me.
Thank you. Allison.
I bring a long track record of working with some of the most innovative people in our faith. We absolutely need to learn what to let go of and what to hold on to in terms of our traditions. I have experience leading and supporting ministries online, in prisons, in congregations of all sizes, in many different contexts, as well as congregations that are small, medium, and large. I bring an appreciation for how we must live into shared ministry and partnerships. One minister cannot rescue a congregation. I bring a demonstrated commitment and track record to multi-generational ministry. We cannot abandon our youth back to a cliff once again. And we have rolled back programs with youth and young adults and rolled back some of the gains we made around anti-racism and oppression. It is important that we create a national strategy with people who have successfully created change in our association. And I bring experience and partnership with people beyond my congregational walls of different faith traditions, as well as people who identify as non-religious, where we have changed the landscape of our community towards more just interactions. I also bring an experience with fundraising and administration. I have 25 years of serving our beloved faith, and I understand the importance of each member of the team. The president is the president over the whole. We need someone committed to the well-being of the whole.
Thank you. Jean.
When it came time to design the logo for my campaign, I sat down with the Assistant Director of Religious Education at the computer, and I said, show how we can come together by renewing our systems and how a leader will bring together our diverse selves to be one unity, and through that unity we'll grow. We created this logo that I'm wearing for that purpose, because I am a leader who's time and again shown that I know how to do this. In corporate life, where I took 21-year-old baristas and turned them into department chairmen simply by letting them articulate what their dreams and possibilities were. In a congregation that has a multicultural staff and works to hold together the vision of the beloved community. On your board, I represented all of you as trustee at large and then as your finance chair. I have experience in the real world, in the church world, and in today's modern world with youth and young adults to reach out and to say, the future of Unitarian Universalism can be thriving. I see a vision where we will build up, as the logo points to, where we're not going to just settle with the decreasing numbers and the falling enrollments. We actually are right for today, as Peter says often, Peter Morales says often, but we need the systems underneath it, the structures, to be able to fulfill that potential. I have the capacity to develop and encourage people to develop our institutions, but also themselves and their dreams. Ask anyone who knows me. I am an encourager of people, and I'm someone who wants to build up our faith to make it its best self.
Thank you. Our last question before your closing statements. Many had also wanted to hear from you about our youth and young adult movements. What are your ideas for creating a more vibrant and engaged youth and young adult presence within Unitarian Universalism? We'll begin with Jean.
Youth first. When we discern things, when we come together, we often get in our lines, our Robert's rules. But I remember from my very first GA, when youth rose to speak about an action of immediate witness about Columbine. Until they spoke, I knew exactly how the outcome of the election was going to go, but they changed our hearts and our minds, and they made us better. Our youth know how to do process so well. Our youth have a different vision. The rules that we pass, the laws that we make, the bylaws we create, they're the ones who are most affected by them. But we've cut their funding. We've diminished their programs for youth and young adults of color, for youth and young adults to travel to different activities. We've taken apart their national association, and yet we say we love our youth. If I'm your president, I promise you this: you will not just see me talking as the talking head. You will hear the voices of youth and young adult galore. We will raise up a chorus of new voices. We will create very particular experience for them to come into the UUA, get experience, and go out into our congregations. We'll develop youth leadership by bringing them together, by subsidizing their travel. I will promise you to raise significant funds, and I mean significant funds, to assure that that generation will have the finest leadership that has been raised up in our movement since we started our association and before. It is the time now to recognize the genius of youth.
Thank you. Susan.
As UUA president, I would be committed to collaborating with youth and young adults and ensuring that their voices are a part of the key work that we begin with in shaping the mission and the strategic ends of the association, so it is reflective of the perspective and the hunger and yearning of our youth and our young adults and their voices and their understanding of our ever-changing world. So that's my first commitment. The other thing I want to say about this is that if the UUA is strong and our congregations are not, our faith will not have the impact that it needs to have in this moment. And so the most important place of youth development that I ever experienced was at Elliott Chapel, outside of St. Louis, Missouri, where I grew up and was nurtured by the other youth and the youth advisors. So the health of our youth and young adult ministry begins, and the foundation is our congregation. As UUA president, I will support it at a national leadership. But the other thing I want to do is remind our congregations that they need to invest in youth and young adult ministry, and that starts with staffing. Last year in Phoenix, we saw, yeah, you can clap. We saw stagnation in our RE program. And so we set this audacious goal to expand our RE staff and to stretch ourselves. And we increased staffing in RE as well as professional expenses for our director of religious education. And you know what? We saw a 20% increase in RE participation. Children and youth coming to Phoenix congregation. investment matters. Where you put your money matters, but it's not just the UUA that's going to do this. Our youth are coming up in our congregations. We need to put that vision. I will put that vision before all of our congregations.
Thank you. Allison.
When I was leading the Mind the Gap youth and campus and young adult ministry campaign, I became very conscious of something. When I would interview our elders, they would tell me stories about how they had discovered our faith or stayed in our faith because of investment in programs during that young adult age range. We have cut off too many of our leadership pipelines. Congregational polity is essential. And through that campaign, we helped fund staff positions to be able to serve youth and young adults, some staff positions which still exist and have forever changed those ministries in the life of several of our congregations. But we cannot just rely on the current congregations to serve the needs of the rising generations. Many young adults cast a vision of service first and worship second. We have to be willing to take bold experiments and to help fund young adults who are trying to create innovative and vibrant ministries on campuses and elsewhere in the world. And there are many such emerging communities. We must be willing to educate congregations. This is not a simple task. As I said earlier, sometimes people don't understand the dividends for our faith, but so many of us, Susan and I being an example, have been raised in this faith and are now leaders. So many young adults came in and are now leaders of our faith. Supporting youth campus and young adult ministry has everything to do with the vitality of our leadership today, the youth leaders who are today as well as tomorrow, future district presidents, future ministers, religious educators, administrators. This has to be a priority.
Thank you. We turn now to your closing statements. You'll each have 2 minutes to speak. We begin with Allison.
Together, we can embrace powerful change. We can grow in spirit, and we can lead with love. I am running out of a deep sense of gratitude for our faith, for Unitarian Universalists, and for the healing power we can play in one another's lives. I am running out of a deep sense of the possibilities that we have when we work collectively for justice and healing change in the world. I have personally experienced this. We're talking about youth ministry. When I was a youth, I was diagnosed with cancer. And it was my UU community that rallied around me and helped me wrestle with the spiritual work of facing the questions of life and death. It was my UU community that gave me the healing power of community, and 150 people donated blood. I have the blood of Unitarian Universalists coursing through my veins. And this personal story, to me, is an example of, again, how we are agents of healing in one another's lives. And it's not just in the congregation. What we're talking about, these changes, are healing when people can bring their full selves into the congregation. And then more powerful, we can go out into the world and lead with love as partners for healing and change in the communities beyond our walls. I am running because I know that together we can build a future that is more just and loving, bold, and life-giving.
Thank you. Jean.
It's fashionable to say that the chaotic landscape of the religious world right now is not good. The future is not good for religion. But I believe strongly that we can be a faith on fire. I believe that despite the troubles we have had with broken promises and disappointments, that we are actually getting closer and closer to the possibility, and we could break through to multicultural, youth-empowering, justice-focused, Unitarian Universalist that has funding and power to speak out in a hurting world. My service of ministry in the past 12 years, my time in the private sector, my time building up a congregation of radical inclusivity, and my time as a social justice leader in my state network, in the public square, have taught me that things look bleakest right before they flame up. I know how to encourage us forward, to lead. I want the opportunity to do the same sort of structural, inspirational, imaginative work that we can create a new UU. I believe that we can build a UU for the 21st century, less headquarters and more network. I believe that we can create an outreaching justice network that follows through on its commitments and a commonwealth of congregations that love one another and come together when crisis is at our doorstep. I believe in that polity. I believe in that Unitarian Universalism, and I think that you do as well. I hope this is the beginning of a conversation, and I'd like you to visit jeanpupke.com.
Thank you. Susan.
As a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, I know that I would not be the person that I am today without this faith as my strength and my foundation. Our faith continues to teach me how to boldly embody and lead from the values of love and justice. Many are leaving faith communities because they fail to see their relevance for the real challenges that confront us. If we can lift our eyes to see a larger vision of who we are and how we are called in this moment, we can remind people about the meaning and the power of religious community. This call in me for the UUA presidency began at Justice GA when I saw what we were capable of. And I know we can do more of that. I'm committed to that. I know the power of our faith. I know the challenging call it makes to us and the life-saving communities that our UU congregations are across the country. I am running for UUA president because I believe this is a defining moment, a pivotal moment. We need a president capable of providing strategic clarity and spiritually grounded leadership in the midst of uncertainty. For the last 8 years, I've served a vibrant, growing, thriving congregation in Phoenix, Arizona. I live in a border state, and I've come to see that ours is a border faith, and this is a border time. Borderlands are not places defined by either or thinking, but both and. They're places of creativity, change, sometimes tension, and opportunity. How we live this faith matters.
Thank you. We offer our thanks and appreciation to each of you who are here, the delegates and attendees of the Columbus General Assembly, and offer our thanks to these fine candidates for lending us their vision, their skill, their talent, their gifts of time and energy as we envision the future of our movement. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
We encourage you, delegates and attendees and Unitarian Universalists across this land, to stay engaged in this process in the year ahead. Your UUA Board of Trustees will be sponsoring similar fora to this one across the nation over the upcoming year. We offer our thanks and gratitude again and hope that you'll stay engaged and continue getting to know these candidates well. Have a good afternoon.